So topic two, your favorite game. We touched on it a little bit, but go ahead and let us
Yeah.
know what your favorite game is, Nate.
So I actually want to give some shout outs and kind of explain this. So for me, it's really hard to pick a favorite out of like different genres, if that makes sense. So like people say, what are your top five games? Or like, how do I compare Final Fantasy X to StarCraft 2? Like,
Uh-huh.
that doesn't make sense to me. Um, so I have a favorite of each like genre. Um, so StarCraft 2 would be probably my favorite RTS. Halo 2, shooter, Final Fantasy X, Metroid Prime, all right, and then Zelda Ocarina of Time is what I've chosen, which surprised me that no one else has chosen it yet. But didn't someone have a Link to the Past?
No, no,
No? Have you had any Zeldas?
no. We haven't had any Zeldas come up. Link to the Past is my favorite
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
Zeldas,
okay, yeah.
but
Well, did you talk about that in the first episode then?
no, no. My first episode was Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, six, okay. Um, so yeah, I figured I'd go with, I had backups if someone had already talked about Zelda.
Yeah, and the thing that I like, I mean, we haven't hit it yet, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to revisiting a favorite game.
Yeah,
There was early on, like Alex's favorite game was Persona 4 Golden, and then Frank was like, I mean, I would totally come in and have done Persona 4 Golden too. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, like back to back, I don't really want to do. I don't.
yeah, yeah,
I want to give it a little bit of breathing room before we revisit it.
yeah.
But we also gave him ample time to talk about Persona 4 in that episode.
In gaming history.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ocarina is probably if I had to choose out of all of those, like that would probably be my number one game. Just that sense of it being early in my childhood. So what, 98? I think we got it right away, or if not the next year. So I was 7 or 8 when it came out, or when we got it, and just like that introduction to, I mean, it's in my mind like one of the first open world games. Like you can go after that opening part, like you walk into Hyrule Field and it's just huge compared to anything you've seen on the N64 at least. Um, and I mean, a lot of people had that with A Link to the Past, just in 2D beforehand, but I didn't have that experience. And seeing it in 3D is just crazy with seeing Mount Doom over on the right.
Yeah.
You've got the castle a little bit in front of you and the ranch and all these different areas you can go to right away. Um, and like I just really enjoy that style of gameplay with the way the dungeons are laid out, getting that item halfway through that lets you finish the dungeon, and just the clever level design of each of them to where they are kind of sectioned off, but you don't know it
Yeah.
without that item. And that kind of just is something I see. That's like why I like Metroidvania so much. They're kind of like Zelda dungeons themselves are kind of a small Metroidvania. Um, so that really appeals to me.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's the the reason I tend to lean on Link to the Past as my favorite over Ocarina of Time is because it did like Link to the Past did it first for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'd played one and two on the original Nintendo, and then when Super Nintendo came up, it was like, oh, like wow, it's so much bigger. And then like Ocarina of Time is a great game, but it like I go through it, and especially looking back like with a more critical eye, I'm
Hmm.
like it. I look at Ocarina of Time, I'm like it's just Link to the Past again, but now in
Yeah, yeah,
3D
exactly.
for a lot.
But to me,
So
that was a first.
right, and
That
and
was.
for a lot of people it was, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was like groundbreaking graphically and the
yeah, yeah,
size and scope
exactly.
of the game for that time. Even though now we
Yeah,
can go back and be like, I mean, Hyrule feels not that big.
yeah. It really isn't that big, but yeah, the whole world itself isn't really that big either, and it's cordoned off into these small areas. But the way it's presented makes it feel like one big area.
Yeah.
Um,
Is is it something that you've gone back to? Like I remember when Wind Waker came to the GameCube, I
GameCube.
went and
It came with
I got
Master
the
Quest.
promotional disc and all that stuff. So I went through and played through it again, and I know that
Yeah,
like the 3DS version of it is a big seller on the system. Have you gone back and kind of revisited it,
yeah,
or
yeah. So we didn't get Master Quest. We did get Wind Waker, but I don't remember why, but we didn't get that disc. Um, But yeah, I picked it up. Well, I might have played it on Virtual Console on Wii. But I picked up the 3DS version. I beat it like when it came out, when the 3DS version came out, and then I played it again when I got to it in the timeline.
Hmm.
So I've gone back to it within the past like 3 years. Um, but it's something I like to get back to every once in a while. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
super long. Like if you know what you're doing, you can beat it in like 15, 20 hours. So
yeah. One of the like the water temple is one of the things that
yeah.
always like stands out as like the bane of people's existence, and
Hmm.
it was weird for me because I didn't have horrible memories of the water temple,
Okay.
um, and so like finding out after the fact that people hated that, I was like, I mean, like yeah, it was a little bit more puzzling, but like it was also one of the last puzzles you're like playing in that game, so it should have been
Yeah.
the most challenging one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't like remember it being that bad, but I also had a guide as a kid, so I like used the
ah,
Nintendo Power Guide whenever I got stuck, and I do remember getting stuck in there. So I do remember using the guide to get through it. Like I didn't sit there with the guide open the whole game, but if I got stuck, I had it. And
yeah.
I do remember using it for the water temple, so it wasn't as bad to me because I wasn't trying to get through it on my own.
Hmm.
Um, I've never been one to shy away from using a guide if I get stuck somewhere. So
That's fair. I'm largely the same way. Um, so in the as somebody who has played through all of the like all of the series,
yeah,
um, what what about Ocarina of Time makes it stand out above the rest? Is it that like that nostalgia because it was kind of your
yeah,
first experience?
I think it definitely pushes it up there. I do think that I like after playing Link to the Past, it's that same feeling you had where I'm like, okay, this is just 2D Ocarina of Time. Like I'm looking at it backwards because of how I played them,
Hmm.
but it is to me like it wasn't as crazy groundbreaking as everyone thinks says it is because it wasn't my first experience with that game. Like they are the same game.
Yeah,
One's 2D
it's.
version of the other, and one's
I
3D.
mean, yeah, you run into, and that's why like I just have like with Wind Waker, like because Wind Waker I think is the last one I actually really played because
Okay,
I didn't play Twilight Princess and I didn't play Skyward Sword.
okay,
But it was like doing Wind Waker 2. It was like okay, it's the same formula. I have to go get 3 of something and then I have to go get 7 of something, and it
yep,
was like I was like I've been doing the same thing since Link to the Past.
yep.
Um, so yeah, it like, and I don't know because I haven't played Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword if like they follow that same trope.
So Twilight
Um,
Princess does. You have to get 3 of something, and then you have to get 4 of something, and
okay.
that's why you get to go through the dungeon. In the middle there, you go through the Temple of Time dungeon. Um, but yeah, that does. Skyward Sword, I honestly don't remember it as well, but from what I remember, it's much more story driven. Like you're given a story reason to go to each temple, not to collect some random thing.
Uh-huh.
Because they really did use a lot more story in that game to set up the lore of the timeline or whatever.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, what like and with like because you had in Link to the Past and in Ocarina of Time, you have the story of like okay, go get this sage,
yeah,
like go
yep,
save this sage of time or this sage of the
yep,
forest or whatever, and you know you're meeting these characters that you might have already known or you're getting to know.
yep,
But yeah, it was like it was story for the time, especially.
hmm
Um,
yep.
yeah.
But yeah, I think the nostalgia really pushes it. I do prefer the 3D games over the 2D games, just because probably because of that's what I started with. Like I said, I didn't even go back to any of the 2D other than the the handheld ones. I did play 2D, but I never went back to like Link to the Past or the originals until after I'd beaten Wind Waker and maybe even Twilight Princess. I'm trying to think. Um, but yeah, I just like it's that just the definitely the nostalgia of just getting the Master Sword and then the whole world changes. Like that's a really cool. That was a really cool thing for 7-year-old me to experience in a video game, and um, that type of thing. Yeah, just growing up as having adult Link, and everything changes. You different some of the items you can use, some of them you can't.
Yeah.
Like you can't use the slingshot because you have to get the bow, but you can still use Deku nuts and Deku sticks, and that type of stuff was cool. I think that is the game that, well, that and Super Mario 64 are what made me a completionist. Super Mario 64, obviously, getting all the stars is kind of just pushes you, but getting all the hearts and all the different secrets in that game, like Skulltula tokens and that type of stuff, trying to get all the optional items, finding the fairy fountains. Just the one at the end is really cool. Once you have all the hearts, getting double health right before Ganon.
Did you go through and get Goron's sword?
Yep, get Goron's sword. Yeah, do the trading minigame thing. The final dungeon's really cool. Just having mini dungeons for each of the temples. It's like Ganon's castle has the different wings or whatever.
Yep.
I just like, yeah, I definitely think it's probably nostalgia. Well, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think about what makes those other games better, and they just, like you say, they feel like derivative of it. But to you, they all feel derivative of A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you'd have to say nostalgia because A Link to the Past did it first. But
I mean, there are certainly things that Ocarina does. Like,
yeah.
I can acknowledge that my nostalgia for Link to the Past leaves me to overlook some of the things that Ocarina builds on.
Yeah,
that
they definitely.
Link to the Past doesn't do as well.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the combat in the 3D games. I like the whole Z targeting action RPG type combat over the 2D swing your sword in a random direction, hit a dude type thing. Like,
I mean,
it's just more in depth. Like,
yeah, even story wise, like the like you touched on in Ocarina, going from young Link to adult Link, and kind of then having to play with that. Like, okay, the times where you have to do something in the past to affect
going
present.
going to Kakariko Village and going into the well to get the Eye of Truth, so you can go to the Shadow Temple, like that type of stuff.
Yeah, like that is like an improvement on like the Shadow World of Link to the Past.
Yeah.
That like it introduced some of those ideas, and you do have to kind of, okay, you have to like teleport back to the regular world at this point to get to a certain dungeon or something like that, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was much more. I think that mechanic and that idea was refined in Ocarina of Time.
Definitely.
That we didn't necessarily. That like it's introduced in Link to the Past, but it becomes not perfected, but it becomes certainly improved upon in Ocarina of Time.
And I think same with like dungeon design. I think just the 3D element of it adds some really cool stuff that they can't do in the 2D games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely prefer the 3D ones, and I think that's what makes me Ocarina like the best in my mind. Is like Majora's Mask. I didn't get into, like, I didn't beat until the 3D version came out. I just never got into it as a kid. I didn't like the time limit because, like I said, I'm a completionist, and I've never liked time limits in games because they stop me from being a completionist. Like, sure, with Majora's Mask you can rewind and stuff, but it's just a lot more like complicated to try to 100% that game than it is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time, I can just go through and collect everything. I don't have to worry about what I did or what I have to do before I have to reset time and do stuff over and over again.
Yeah, Majora's Mask was one that I've just never been able to get into. Like that was one I rented back in the N64 days at Blockbuster, and it was like immediately turned off because I was too stressed out by the time
exactly, and
having to do and it being designed that you're not going to get everything done in the 3-day period, so you have to like then go back. I was like, that's not the kind of it's similarly like that's one of the biggest things I hate about 13.3 is that it invoked that Majora's Mask stress
it wasn't,
to me, where I was like,
it was very much.
I need the time and freedom to do things at my own pace and not have to be constrained and stressed out.
Yeah, that's a game I used to guide just completely for, so that I didn't miss stuff, because I didn't want to. That otherwise I would have gotten stressed out. But yeah, I went back with the 3D version. I was lucky to get my hands on Majora's Mask 3D, new 3DS, and I actually do enjoy it. Now that I'm older and I can kind of comprehend it better. But it definitely is probably my least favorite of the 3D ones,
Yeah,
which is
it's
crazy because a lot of people hate Skyward Sword, and love Majora's Mask.
yeah. I mean, Majora's Mask is certainly like one of those really divisive ones where it's
Yeah,
like
definitely.
people love it or people hate it.
Yep.
I tried getting into it again when I did the on the GameCube disc or whatever.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I tried playing it again there after doing like the run of Ocarina, and I was like,
Hmm.
nope, it's just
Still,
it's still not connecting for me.
yep.
And like so
That's definitely
when the
understandable.
3DS version came out, I was like, nope, I don't see myself diving into something like that and really enjoying it
Yeah,
in the way that like people that I know people do. It doesn't seem like it would connect with me.
yeah. And then Wind Waker. Wind Waker, I love a lot. It's probably my second. Well, probably my third favorite out of the 3D ones. Twilight Princess is basically just like a bigger next gen Ocarina. Like it's very much Ocarina too. It's just the reason I don't like it as much is I think the overworld's way too big. Hyrule Field is split up into four sections, all of which are bigger than like way bigger than Ocarina's Hyrule Field. Like it just there's too much time running around as Epona. Eventually you get fast travel, but like it's a little too big and it
Hmm.
kind of drags a little bit. But I think the dungeon design in Twilight's the best. Um,
And the overworld's largely empty, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. Like
it's like if
there's
it was
just
filled with things, it wouldn't feel
yeah,
as
yeah.
bad. But
It's just Hyrule Field, just way bigger. Like you're just running through. There's random enemies that you can swing your sword at while you're riding by as Epona or shoot your bow at. But it's largely like there's not much to do. Like there's not many more. I don't really think there's any more collectibles or things than there are in Ocarina. So there's just the same amount to do, but the world's way bigger.
yeah.
But yeah, the dungeon design I think is a lot better. And then Skyward Sword, I actually liked the like movement based control combat type thing. Like I thought it was cool. It didn't make me angry or anything. So, and then I do like the renewed focus on story. But it's a lot more linear. There's
Hmm.
not really like as much of an overworld. You're kind of just going from dungeon to dungeon. As far as I remember, I don't really remember it that well. And then it was pretty long. It is
Mm.
a lot longer than all the others.
So with Breath of the Wild being kind of the next big one,
Yeah,
are you excited by what you've seen of that?
yeah, yeah. I think it's cool that they're taking a lot more cues um, from Western RPGs, open world RPGs, making it much more like a Skyrim or Witcher, where it seems to be like I think they said there's like over 100 of these mini dungeons on
Hmm.
top of the main dungeons. Um, but I do also like that they're kind of bringing it back to the original, where it's not you're not forced to go from dungeon to dungeon if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I am really excited for it. Hoping it doesn't feel too empty. Like I said with Twilight Princess, that is a fear of mine because they are making it so big based on what they've been saying, and I'm trying to figure out like how many side quests are there really going to be, or is it? And like, sure, there's these dungeons peppered around, but if they're only a couple rooms, like they're not going to fill a lot of time. So if
Yeah,
there's not,
if it's just like okay, so I do a dungeon and I get, I mean,
you
like
get a rune or whatever, the
yeah, you get
weird
a rune
power thing.
or yeah, it's because it's. I was like, is it even heart pieces again? Like
Well, there might be.
because now you eat
Oh yeah,
food to restore your health.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, I'm a little worried about some of those weird systems that they have, like how obtrusive are they going to be?
Yeah,
Like if I don't eat, like am I just going to die randomly while fighting a dude, or like do I
or
have to
the
worry about this
like
a lot?
yeah the destructible weapons and stuff. It's like
Oh
okay,
yeah, yeah.
I mean like
Like
that
just give me
doesn't
my
sound
master
fun to
sword.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like the like I didn't like having to just burn through Deku sticks.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Like if it's something like Dark Souls or Oblivion or whatever, where like you can repair it like fairly easily, and I'm not losing my weapons constantly, then I'm fine with it. But yeah, I'm worried about some of the systems, how obtrusive they are. If they're not that obtrusive, they're fine. But and then the overworld being so big,
Yeah.
it could be great or it could be horrible.
Mhm.
But I'm optimistic. They haven't released like I've enjoyed all the Zeldas, so except for Spirit Tracks and the multiplayer ones. Multiplayer
Yeah.
ones I don't really count as Zelda though.
So in back on Ocarina of Time, um, in do you see yourself as a which piece of the Triforce would you identify yourself as?
Probably Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah, I'll identify with Zelda. I'm not
S-
really lusting for power, and
Suck at courage and power.
I wouldn't really. I'm not. I mean, I'm not like a super coward, but I wouldn't say I'm like going out and skydiving and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think I'm much more intellectually inclined.
Yeah.
Um,
And then just as I'm going through and rethinking about the story, like, what did Sheik blow your mind?
yeah, that was really cool. That was my, I guess, as a kid, having not grown up with an NES or SNES, that was my Samus Metroid moment.
Okay.
um, oh my God, except it was an established character, where
Mhm.
Samus was just this. You assumed it was a guy because he's a badass bounty hunter, but
Yeah.
Zelda, yeah, Sheik being Zelda was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's certainly that's something I feel like wouldn't translate well in a game where like the characters are voiced.
yeah,
It was like if you played Persona 4,
yeah, Persona 4 Gold, yeah,
yeah. So like the like Naoto in
Naoto,
that,
yeah,
I was like,
I
like
like.
this character is clearly a girl, right?
Yeah,
Like that's,
exactly. Yep.
I mean,
I was the same
that
way.
doesn't seem like a masculine or a male voice.
Yeah.
So I was
I
like, how long am I supposed to like go with this? I
yeah,
feel
and
like I feel like a chic twist like that would be much tougher to pull off
yeah,
in this day and age, unless like the voice is like deliberately disguised
yeah,
or adjusted like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
But yeah,
that's
that was a really cool twist to me.
yeah.
Um,
Trying to think like do like iconic like boss battles and stuff is another like at the end of each dungeon
yeah,
like those creatures kind of being um, like memorable in the same vein. I think that like it's interesting because I think I can draw maybe parallels between like the boss design in a Zelda game and the boss design of a Souls game,
yeah,
as kind of
yeah.
like
Definitely, there,
these
definitely.
larger than life creatures that
Yep.
like you have to now figure out a way to beat and overcome.
Yeah. They're not always so straightforward on what you need to do. Yeah, Goma right away is something that's always been pretty memorable. You walk into the bottom, or you go to the bottom of the Deku tree, and you just walk into this empty arena, and then the camera pans up or whatever, and you see the eye open, and
Yeah.
then a giant spider falls in front of you, and you're just like, oh, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
what do I need to do here? So that's always a big one. Trying to think, I don't really like. I can't, this is really bad, but I can't even remember what the boss. Oh no, Dodongo, King of Dodongo.
Hmm.
Um, that was a throwback, so like I didn't really get the reference or whatever. Like obviously, throw the bombs into his mouth
Yeah.
was a thing, but I didn't know that, so I didn't get that nostalgia factor. So that boss was okay, but I didn't like the whole only being able to run around the edge with all the lava
Hmm.
in the middle. Like that was kind of obnoxious. And then I don't like the boss for Jabu Jabu, the jellyfish,
Oh yeah.
electric jellyfish thing. That boss, I don't like that design because like it, well, like there's when you throw the boomerang, it's like a crapshoot if it actually does anything sometimes
Yeah.
with the
That's
Z
very true.
targeting. Like
Yep.
sometimes it'll just hit the jellyfish itself and bounce off or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like so it that was just the way the mechanics worked. It wasn't that great, but Phantom Ganon's really cool with the paintings and him coming out and
Hmm.
having to shoot the bow and the right painting and stuff. Um, yeah, most of the adult dungeon bosses are really cool. I like Volvega playing whack a mole with the hammer.
Yeah.
Um, Shadow Link was a bitch, but He's not the final boss, but he's basically the boss of the water temple. Like the weird
Yeah.
amorphous water blob thing wasn't nearly as cool as Shadow Link.
Yeah.
Um, then I'm trying to. So then we got. Was there a boss for the well? I don't think so.
No, I feel like there was, well, not the well necessarily, but
Yeah,
like
well
the Shadow Temple
Shadow Temple
has,
had Dongo Dongo or whatever his name is.
it's
The
like,
drum Bongo Bongo or he's
oh
the
yeah,
hands and the ghost hands.
right, yes, that you have to have the
I
eye
can't
on
remember his name.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and you're doing way better on the names than I am, because
Okay.
it's like I can visualize them, but yeah, the
Yeah,
names are lost on
I
me
don't
just
remember the
because.
Water Temple ones, but I can remember most of them. And then Twin Rova is just one of the coolest bosses ever. I love that, just having the two ice and fire and having to
Yeah.
reflect the fire with the mirror shield onto the ice, and
Yeah.
then they combine into the Twin Rova. Um, and then Ganon was just a really cool boss fight, having the 2-part boss fight with
Hmm.
where he turns into a giant pig.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then Zelda has to throw you the light arrows. So yeah, and then the whole Metroid style escape from the exploding castle at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, I mean, it's a solid game, and
Yeah,
like, I mean, widely regarded by
yeah,
many
yeah, exactly.
as the best game ever.
It's not
So
really a surprise for us to
yeah.
praise it so much.
Yeah, no, it's certainly it is certainly a worthy addition to the Trove Talk library of favorite games. Any final thoughts that you want to kind of touch on it that we haven't really addressed?
No, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah,
Can't really think of anything.
cool.